Shalom and good evening. This is TV7 Israel News broadcasting to you from Jerusalem. And in today's top stories, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu announces that Operation Northern Shield is progressing according to plan and will continue to proceed until all of its objectives are met, as the IDF announces the discovery of yet another tunnel. Hundreds of thousands of Hamas supporters flooded the streets of Gaza City on Sunday as the Islamist group marked 31 years since its inception. Australian Prime Minister Scott Morison announces Canberra's official recognition of West Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, a decision received in Jerusalem with mixed reactions. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu announced that Operation Northern Shield is progressing according to plan and will continue to proceed until all of its objectives are met. In remarks he made during Jerusalem's weekly cabinet meeting, the Israeli leader made mention of a fourth revelation of a subterranean cross-border passage, which was dug by the Iranian proxy Hezbollah.
לפנות בוקר צה"ל חשף מנהרה רביעית של חיזבאללה. המבצע שלנו לשלול לחיזבאללה את נשק המנהרות, להתקדם לפי המתוכנן, הוא יימשך עד שישיג את כל יעדיו.
The IDF spokesperson's unit released a statement saying IDF troops exposed an additional cross-border attack tunnel that crossed the Blue Line, which is the border demarcation between Lebanon and the Jewish state from Lebanese territory into Israel. The Israeli military further underscored that the attack tunnel is under IDF control and does not pose an imminent threat due to the fact that the military placed inside the tunnel explosive devices to thwart future use of the underground passage. The IDF concluded its statement by condemning the Lebanese government in Beirut for the cross-border attack tunnel, while stressing that the revelation once again portrays the blatant breach of Israeli sovereignty and of UN Security Council Resolution 1701 by the Iranian proxy Hezbollah. Now back to Jerusalem, where Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu discussed the latest surge of Palestinian violence against Israeli civilians and soldiers across the West Bank. Netanyahu stressed that while Israeli forces managed to locate and eliminate 2 terrorists and that the third turned himself in, the fourth Palestinian terrorist who remains at large will be dealt with to the fullest extent of the law.
בעקבות פיגועי הטרור הרצחניים ביהודה ושומרון בשבוע שעבר, נקטנו פעולות תקיפות הן בביטחון והן בהתיישבות. בביטחון כוחותינו איתרו וחיסלו 2 מהמפגעים. השלישי הסגיר עצמו לכוחותינו, ולגבי הרביעי הם פועלים בנמרצות כדי למצוא אותו ונמצא גם עמו את הדין.
The Prime Minister listed a series of government measures in response to the surge of Palestinian terror activities, including demolishing houses of Palestinian terrorists, revoking permits of their relatives to work in Israel, retroactively authorizing illegal housing units across Israeli settlements on disputed territories, and advancing construction of industrial zones in 2 separate West Bank locations. Netanyahu also relayed a message to the Islamist Hamas organization, whose members were responsible for the latest surge in violence across the West Bank, stressing Israel won't accept a ceasefire in the Gaza Strip while terrorism plagues Judea and Samaria, the 2 main regions of the West Bank.
לא נקבל מצב של הפסקת אש בעזה והפעלת טרור ביהודה ושומרון, ונגבה על כך מחיר כבד. הטרוריסטים הפלסטינים חושבים שהם יעקרו אותנו מלב ארצנו, במעשינו, בעוז רוחנו, אנו מובילים להם ולעולם כולו, אנחנו כאן כדי להישאר.
Meanwhile, hundreds of thousands of Hamas supporters flooded the streets of Gaza City on Sunday as the Islamist group marked 31 years since its inception. Speaking to the vast crowd of Hamas supporters, Ismail Haniyeh, the political bureau chief of the internationally recognized terror group, vowed to continue the organization's armed struggle against Israel, while underlining that liberating every inch of what he termed as Palestinian lands is a Hamas responsibility. While Haniyeh confessed to the deteriorating position of Hamas, both financially and diplomatically, the Islamist group's political leader claimed that while leaders of the Arab states seek to bolster relations with the Jewish state, their Arab populations support the Palestinian people and are aligned with Hamas' ideology of liberating occupied Muslim lands. Furthermore, the Hamas leader hailed the latest surge of violence across the West Bank and called on the Palestinian Authority in Ramallah to halt all security cooperation with Israel. Meanwhile, in the West Bank, Hamas supporters attempted to hold a demonstration in Ramallah in support of the Gazan Islamist group. Shortly after the protest started, however, members of the Palestinian security forces rushed to the scene and violently subdued the protesters. Spokesman for the Western-backed Palestinian security forces, Adnan al-Dumeiri, revealed that while Hamas supporters claimed to demonstrate against Israel, the demonstration's main focus was directed against the Palestinian leadership in Ramallah and its security apparatus. The Palestinian security spokesman underlined, while protests against Israel are welcomed across friction points in the West Bank, any attempt to demonstrate against the Palestinian leadership will be thwarted. Now in other news, Australian Prime Minister Scott Morison announced Canberra's official recognition of West Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. While initial reports indicated an Australian reluctance to relocate its embassy in Israel to Jerusalem, the Australian Prime Minister revealed that work has started to identify a suitable site for an Australian embassy in the western part of the city once Israel and the Palestinians reach a final status peace agreement.
Australia now recognises West Jerusalem, being the seat of the Knesset and many of the institutions of government, is the capital of Israel. West Jerusalem is the capital of Israel. And we look forward to moving our embassy to West Jerusalem when practical, in support of and after final status determination.
While the highly anticipated recognition of Jerusalem lost half of its weight when Canberra decided to split the city into two parts, reactions in Israel were mixed. While an official foreign ministry statement described the Australian move as a step in the right direction, other Israeli officials said they were disappointed that Australia chose to only recognize the western part of the city as Israeli.
אוסטרליה ידידה עמוקה ורבת שנים ואינטימית של ישראל. שמחנו לשמוע שיש לה עניין להבהיר את ההכרה שלה בירושלים כבירת ישראל, אבל לצערנו, בתוך הבשורה החיובית הזאת הם עשו טעות. אין הפרדה בין מזרח העיר למערב העיר, ירושלים אחת היא. מאוחדת, שליטת ישראל בה היא נצחית, הריבונות שלנו איננה ניתנת לחלוקה או לערעור, ואנחנו מקווים שאוסטרליה תמצא את הדרך בקרוב לתקן את המשגה שהיא עשתה.
Prior to the Australian announcement, the Palestinian leadership in Ramallah called on Prime Minister Morison to preserve its historic role as a balanced country.
Why should Australia really be just a follower of Mr. Trump's decisions in the United Nations? Australia has always been an important country to us, a friendly country, a balanced country, and I understand the balance has not been fulfilled up till now. That is, it will be fulfilled when Australia recognizes officially the right of the Palestinian to a Palestinian state of their own with East Jerusalem as capital. That would really make some balance. But all of this that started with the Australian Prime Minister wanting to declare Jerusalem to be the capital of the State of Israel, and the changes he's made are not sufficient.
In response to the Palestinian call and growing pressures from Muslim countries, Prime Minister Morison reportedly scaled back from his initial position. The Prime Minister underscored Canberra's commitment to acknowledge the aspirations of the Palestinian people for a state with East Jerusalem as its capital. Thank you for watching us. Praying for the peace of Israel and the peace of Jerusalem. I'm Jonathan Hassan. Erev Tov and Shavua Tov. We will see you again tomorrow at the same time.